My name is Madison. I am 24 years old, and tonight my father pushed a stale dinner roll into my palm and said, "We didn't order for you," while my brother carved into a $400 steak. I tasted the salt of butter and humiliation. I swallowed it quietly. The restaurant's chandeliers dripped light like judgment. My sister-in-law's smile flashed sharp. "Be grateful you're invited," she breathed as if generosity were a leash. If you're watching this, drop a comment and tell me the moment you realized family can perform love without practicing it. Hit like and subscribe so this story reaches someone who thinks they're alone at the table. Dad, Arthur, manages a luxury car dealership. He loves speeches about hustle provided someone else is hustling. Mom, Denise, posts gratitude quotes over mimosas. My brother, Caleb, sells fintech promises and collects watches he can't read without his phone. His wife, Avery, curates her life like a museum, entry by invitation only. My loyal outlier is Aunt Lila, public school counselor. Thin salary. Heavy heart. The only person who ever asked what I was hungry for. The waiter approached for dessert. I stood. "Send the bill to the ones who ate," I said, voice soft enough to sting. Heads turned. Dad's fork froze midair. He hates an audience he doesn't control. We'd gathered to celebrate Caleb's Series B. I was between jobs. Freelance brand copy dried up after I refused to fluff a scammy client. At home I kept a spreadsheet titled, Rent versus Pride. Pride was losing by a hair and a half. We weren't always this way. When I was 10, Dad let me spin the dealership's revolving stand. The cherry red coupe glowed. "Work for what you want," he said. I memorized the lesson, not the fine print that his definition of work included other people's backs. Outside, winter pressed its cold nose to the glass. The city hummed. Avery lifted her phone. "Trauma content," she whispered to Caleb, angling for a video. Mom reached for my hand but patted the linen instead, afraid of smudging something invisible. I left before the check landed. In the hallway mirror, a woman with calm eyes met me. I didn't recognize her patience, but I trusted it. Then my phone buzzed and Aunt Lila's message knocked the air from me. "Come straight to me. I found something about Grandpa's house." I touched the door, feeling it tremble as if the building itself knew what that meant. And then I turned back. Aunt Lila's apartment smelled like cinnamon tea and printer ink. She'd set out a folder as if it were a place setting. "Madison," she said, voice steady the way a bridge is steady. "I was cleaning Grandpa's file boxes. I found the trust addendum he signed the spring before he died. If you're watching this, tell me in the comments if you've ever discovered a secret that was meant to keep you small. Hit like and subscribe so this reaches someone who needs the courage to open a dusty folder." She slid the paper across the table. I read slowly. The house, Grandpa's sun-faded blue bungalow with the lemon tree, was placed in a living trust. There was a clause in his handwriting. "Upon my passing, my granddaughter Madison has right of first residency and stewardship. If she elects residency within 90 days, title vests to her name through the trust." I blinked. Residency? Grandpa knew I was always the one who stayed to clean up after dinners. But this. Lila tapped another page. "Arthur, your father, filed a corrective deed a week after the funeral. He planned to sell the house and move the funds into his dealership expansion pot. The county rejected it. The trust language is too specific. He doesn't know it bounced. He's still negotiating a private sale." Heat rose in my skin, not rage, clarity. I pictured Dad's hand pushing that bread roll at dinner, the way he always pushed leftovers of dignity my way. Break time equals 2/4. I could hear Caleb, "Everything's leverage." Avery, "Everything's content." Mom, "Everything's a vibe." Everything I thought is about to be a boundary. We called the county clerk the next morning. A patient man explained the steps. Notice of election to reside. Proof of occupancy. Trust counsel. It was boring. Beautifully boring. The kind of boring that changes lives. "I can float your first month," Lila said. "I know you're between contracts." "No," I said softly. "I'll earn it. But can you come with me when I pick up the keys?" She smiled like sunrise. I already put a spare on my keyring. I packed a single suitcase. I left the restaurant smell of last night in the shower drain. When I closed my apartment door, my phone buzzed with a family group text from Mom. "Dinner tonight at Portico? Let's reset. I typed, I'll meet you at the old house instead. There's something we need to talk about. And I pressed send before I could taste my fear. The key turned like a promise that didn't need words. Morning washed the room's pale gold. Dust floated like confetti that forgot it was supposed to celebrate. The lemon tree out back touched the kitchen window with a leaf as if checking my pulse. If you're still here, drop a comment telling me one quiet place that made you feel strong again. Subscribe, because sometimes the path out of humiliation is a porch light and paperwork. I carried in a thrifted lamp, a rolled rug, and a mug that said not your afterthought. I opened the windows. The house exhaled. On the mantel, Grandpa's service photo tilted, his smile tired but honest. I straightened it and whispered, I'm home. Break time equals 2/. By noon, I'd filed the notice of election at the clerk's office. The woman behind the glass stamped the document, then nodded at me like we were finishing a relay race together. I called a trust attorney Aunt Lila recommended. Public interest, low fee. He confirmed the trust was airtight. Your father can grumble, he said, but he can't bulldoze. At 3, Avery posted a story, dinner with the fam tonight, healing vibes. A close-up of a martini with a manicured hand. He tagged Caleb and Mom. Not me. At 5, I texted the address and time. Dad replied, we're not driving across town for nostalgia. Meet at Portico. I answered, I live here now. It's relevant. No bubbles. Silence, its own weather. At 6:30, a black SUV hummed at the curb. Caleb's watch flashed the porch light back at me. Mom wore an apologetic cardigan. Dad walked in like the house owed him rent. We paid the property taxes for a decade, he announced. It's effectively ours. I pointed to the stamped notice on the table. Grandpa left a path. I walked it. The attorney joined via speaker, polite and precise. He explained vesting, fiduciary duties, rejected deeds. Dad's jaw clicked. Caleb's smile snagged. Mom tried a softer angle. Honey, we just want what's best. What's best, I said, is that the people who eat also pay. The porch light flickered once. The lemon leaf tapped the glass again. Dad turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. You can't afford this. I know exactly what it costs, I said. I just stopped paying in pride. He didn't like the math. He left anyway. I locked the door and the house breathed with me. Rent versus pride became stewardship versus noise. I made a new spreadsheet. Insurance, utilities, title work, minor repairs. The numbers lined up like a choir finding harmony. I pitched 2 new clients with sample copy drawn from the house's history. Sustainable paint brand, memory-safe finishes. Community bank, intergenerational wealth without predation. Both said yes. If you're watching, tell me in the comments how you turned a no into your first yes. Like and subscribe, because we build from sawdust and patience out here. Avery DM'd me that afternoon. If you insist on playing owner, at least let us shoot a legacy home reel here next week. Sponsored. Good money. I typed and deleted 3 drafts. Finally, not available for optics. Break time equals 2/. Caleb called. Invest in my new SPV. We'll flip the house into fractional shares. You keep 20%, Dad and I operate. I'm not inventory, I said. And this house isn't a deck slide. Think long term. We put family first. Caleb, I said gently, you mean family first when the check arrives. He hung up with a sigh that sounded like a reheated script. Mom arrived unannounced with candles and apologies. I raised you to be independent, she said, arranging tulips that wilted on cue. Your father, he gets stubborn. Her phone binged. She snapped a selfie with the flowers captioned, helping my girl nest. She didn't tag me. I showed her the clause in Grandpa's handwriting. Tears gathered in her eyes and then changed their mind. Your grandfather always liked you, she said softly. He said you carry your own weather. Do you? I asked. She looked at the candles. Sometimes I bring a draft where I should bring a sweater. I need you to bring a spine, I said. Not cruel. True. Aunt Lila texted. City Preservation Board is doing a small feature on original bungalows. Want me to connect you? Yes, please. That night, I rehearsed lines in the lemon room, not for a camera, for a future I wanted to recognize. My name is Madison. I am 24 years old, and I will not accept a dinner roll where an invitation belongs. The porch light hummed. In the quiet, I drafted one more note, to the restaurant from that night. I paid my own share with a tip that said, for the busser who refilled the water they didn't order for me. Then I opened the group chat and typed, Sunday. Lunch here. Book. Bring your appetites and your honesty. I cooked lemon chicken and roasted potatoes because legacy should taste like something. I set 4 plates and a 5th for Lila. I left one empty on purpose. Grandpa's seat, a silent witness. The house smelled like warmth wearing a good suit. If you're still with me, tell me one small ritual that made you feel like the main character in your own life. Subscribe, because we're not extras in our family's highlight reels. They came in 2s. Mom with a quiver of peace offerings. Caleb with a smirk and a branded tote. Dad 10 minutes late with the clatter of authority. Avery last, haloed in a ring light glow, filming from the sidewalk. Break time equals 2s/. No cameras inside, I said. Avery pouted. Caleb shrugged. We ate in stiff silence until I tapped my glass. Here's how this works. If you want a relationship with me, it will happen in rooms where I'm a person, not a prop. If you want the house, that conversation is closed. If you want lunch, eat. If you want to negotiate, bring counsel. Dad laughed without humor. You don't talk to your father like you're a judge. I'm not a judge, I said. I'm a steward. There's a difference. Mom reached for the lemon bowl as if it were a life ring. We're proud of you, she said. We worry. You worry when I refuse to be useful, I replied. Not when I'm unsafe. Caleb unzipped his tote and slid out a glossy deck. We can't monetize the house, fine. But you could be the face of a content vertical about ethical inheritance. Sponsored by. I'm not for sale, I said. And you should stop selling what you don't own. Avery muttered, that attitude won't pay plumbing. Actually, I said, the brand copy I landed yesterday will. And the preservation feature might cover the exterior paint. Dad stabbed a potato. You think you've won something. But legacy isn't a cottage. It's our name. And our name is on my dealership, on Caleb's company, on. Grandpa's name is on this trust, I cut in. And incidentally on a handwritten note I found under the mantel clock. I placed the folded paper on the table. Everyone leaned in. Grandpa's curved letters. If you are reading this, then the person holding it remembered that care beats control. Don't let anyone turn warmth into a weapon. Dad's eyes flicked up. Where Grandpa left it. For someone who stays. The room held its breath. Eat, I said quietly. If you're hungry. Avery pushed back her chair. I'll eat where people understand growth. She stood, then paused at the doorway as her phone lit up with a notification she didn't like. Her mouth tightened. She left without saying goodbye. Caleb checked his watch, flustered. Dad finished his plate in 3 hard bites. Mom looked at Grandpa's seat and whispered, I remember when this table felt kind. And for the first time in a long time I believed she wanted it to again. I hit send and the cursor winked like it already knew who would show. Friday, the conference room reeked of leather chairs and old power. Dad's attorney smiled like he sold umbrellas in the desert. We'll keep this amicable, he said, sliding a packet toward me. Your father covers your costs. You assign beneficial interest to him. Everyone walks away whole. If you're still here, tell me the bravest no you ever said in a room built for your silence. Subscribe, because your voice calibrates mine. My attorney adjusted his glasses. Alternatively, he said, placing our own packet on the table, we recognize the trust, Madison's filed election, and the county's rejection of Mr. Arthur Hale's corrective deed. We propose a family non-interference agreement. No commercial use of the home by parties other than Madison. In exchange, Madison waives any claim to past underpaid trust distributions on rental income Mr. Hale collected after Mr. Sinclair's passing. Dad flinched. Underpaid what? The attorney clicked a pen. Your client appears to have leased the property to a colleague for 6 months after the funeral. That income should have been distributed per trust language. We're prepared to pursue recovery with interest. Color climbed Dad's neck. Caleb texted under the table like a man bailing water with a spoon. Avery wasn't there. I looked at Dad. He looked at me and saw someone who might not forgive him. He hated that more than losing money. We can fight, I said softly. Or we can stop handing each other bills that the other never agreed to pay. Silence. A long one. Break time equals 2 /. Finally, Dad exhaled. Non-interference, he said. Fine. But you won't shut me out of my granddaughter's home. You can visit, I said, surprising even myself. By invitation. As a father. We signed. Pens scratched like small storms settling. Outside, the sky poured a brief, honest rain. Mom texted a photo of the lemon room with sunlight returning. Lila sent a string of hearts. Caleb sent nothing. As I reached the curb, Avery stepped from a rideshare, sunglasses high. Congrats, she said. You won a bungalow. I'm landing a docuseries. I won a boundary, I replied. Documentaries love those. Her grin cracked. She walked away. Back home, I stood under the lemon tree and let one cool drop find my wrist. That night, the house felt like a chest that had finally been able to inhale. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Ms. Hale? I'm calling from Portico. About your family's outstanding balance from last week. We hosted a second lunch, this time with space for truth. I kept Grandpa's seat open again, not out of grief but gratitude. Lila brought a pie. Mom brought herself without a camera. Caleb arrived late, edges frayed, the audit having scraped off his gloss. He put his phone face down. I'm reassessing, he said. If you're open, I could use help writing a statement that isn't a lie. If you made it this far, I said into the lens I finally allowed on a tripod, tell me in the comments one boundary you set that saved your life. And if my story gave you a little oxygen, hit like and subscribe, because I plan to keep telling the truth until it's ordinary. I looked straight at my family. I'm not your extra. I'm not your optics. If you come here, you will sit, eat, and apologize when you wound. You will not film staff, mock waiters, or treat kindness like a currency. Dad cleared his throat. About the restaurant, he said. Portico sent the invoice. He slid an envelope across the table. Paid in full. He didn't meet my eyes. I shouldn't have done that to you. The words scraped him on the way out, but they came. Mom touched my hand. I brought your baby pictures, she said, voice bright with sincerity and fear. Not to post. To remember. Lila poured tea. To stewardship, she said. We raised cups. I stood and read Grandpa's note aloud. When I finished, the room held the sound gently, like a choir catching its breath together. Later, after they left, I filmed the preservation feature in the lemon room. We talked about paint and porches and women who choose not to be useful at their own expense. We didn't talk about revenge. We talked about repair. Before I closed the camera, I added, if you were ever handed a dinner roll where an invitation belonged, listen. You are not the afterthought. You are the author. Break time equals 2 /. As I posted, a Portico notification landed. Invoice settled. No caption. No lecture. Just a receipt that finally matched reality. I stepped onto the porch with a slice of pie. The city moved like a long, kind sentence. The lemon tree brushed the window once, approving. In the hallway mirror, that calm-eyed woman looked back again. Now I recognized her patience. Now I recognized her power. Have you ever faced betrayal? Share it in the comments so someone braver tomorrow can learn from you today. And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this deserve a home, and I'll be here keeping the light on. I turned off the porch light and let the night keep the rest. I paid for what was mine. I smiled into the dark. Send the bill, I said. To the ones who ate.